welcome to our television audience this afternoon. Our guests, members, and our interpreter, uh, Jamie, who we appreciate every time she joins us. Um, I do want to remind you that at this point in time, these broadcasts are being recorded as YouTube videos and are available on the Mayor's Commission website. I'll talk about that in just a moment. Um, uh, but we are talking about other ways to try and reach out to the public. So I want to say that the videos are available at the Disability Commission website at www.cityofomaha.org. Click on the mayor's office and then click on the Disabilities Commission. I've tried it. It does work. There are recorded videos there. Um, I want to talk a little bit about the mission, purpose, and the meeting format. That's why I brought my glasses, or else I wouldn't be reporting on that. The Mayor's Commission main central objective is to promote quality of life, accessibility, and equity in all aspects related to the City of Omaha on behalf of and in cooperation with the citizens of Omaha who experience disabilities. To this end, the Commission advises the mayor, city council, city department heads, and other City of Omaha employees and personnel on issues of access, representation, employment, housing, and quality of life affecting city citizens with disabilities and their respective families. We also serve as a resource to Omaha citizens with disabilities and their families to express concerns and resolutions regarding issues affecting them. And that, I should add, as part of our pre-meeting, we had a long discussion about ways that we could better get that information to leadership in the city in an effective way. And so we've got some ideas. We also work to publicize the role of the Mayor's Commission and the resources available to assist citizens with disabilities, employers, housing representatives, business owners, engineers and architects, and others who have a role in bettering the lives of Omaha citizens. We promote awareness of the general public on the capabilities, needs, and desires of persons with disabilities. And we haven't done this for a while either, and it might be worth considering a little bit of additional effort in the area of recognizing the efforts of specific employers, businesses, schools, organizations, and others who've demonstrated outstanding supportive programs and services for persons with disabilities. We serve as an advocate for accessibility issues and implement plans and projects to improve services for citizens with disabilities. And finally, we review and implement plans and projects for advocating for services for persons with disabilities. That's the short and sweet version. We did have a pre-meeting. We talked some on some current concerns that have been brought to our attention around transportation, as well as other issues related to the role of the commission. So I think we had a good discussion, and we have some good plans in place as far as trying to expand our reach a little bit and expand our exposure and ideally then be of greater utility to the folks that we're here to represent. Let's see. We did not have a quorum. We're still not meeting all in person. There are more of us in person than there were recently. So I guess we're making progress. Hopefully at some point in the near future, we'll be able to resume in face-to-face meetings. I appreciate Nancy and Megan for coming down, but really, no, that's nothing against the members who feel better about accessing electronically. It's just been a tough 18 months, and it doesn't look like it's going to be over anytime soon. I'd like to go through some introductions real quickly. I'll start to my right. If folks can introduce themselves and kind of speak to their area of interest and maybe a little bit about themselves in terms of why they're here and who they're representing.
Sure. Megan Walls with Assistology. I work across age groups and across disability categories, so I'm here for that broader conversation. I also serve as the vice chair for the commission.
Thanks, Megan. Nancy?
And I'm Nancy Floral, and I'm the Omaha District Supervisor with the Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And we are the vocational rehabilitation agency that serves individuals that are blind, visually impaired, and deafblind. And we do serve individuals of all ages.
Thanks, Nancy. And my name is Mark Smith. I'm a faculty member at the University of Nebraska Medical Center's Monroe Meyer Institute, which is the University Center for Excellence in Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, where we represent not only the city of Omaha, but the entire state of Nebraska, and work on behalf of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities across the age span, specifically around working to expand the services and the providers of services for the individuals we represent. I'll just call folks on the board. Stephanie?
Hi, I'm Stephanie Skavdal. I'm with Outlook Nebraska. We provide employment and enrichment opportunities to those who are blind and visually impaired, and that is who I'm here representing.
Thanks, Stephanie. And Rachel?
Hi, I'm Rachel Johnson. I live with a spinal cord injury. I've also worked with individuals with traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries, and currently work with folks with developmental disabilities. So I'm here to represent those populations.
Thanks, Rachel. And Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jen Pollock, and I facilitate elementary special education services for Millard Public Schools. So I'm representing that school age population of students with disabilities.
Jennifer also did not mention that she keeps notes for our group, which are not officially minutes, but we, through the entire pandemic, we've kept an ongoing recording or record of our gatherings, despite the fact that, you know, like everybody else, we're dealing with the pandemic. And Laura?
Diligent note taker, yes.
Yes, official note taker. Laura?
Laura Young with the League of Human Dignity. We provide independent living services for people with disabilities, and we also have the AD waiver contract for the state of Nebraska to provide service coordination.
Thanks, Laura. And I know we have at least one visitor. Want to introduce yourself, Mel?
Hi, I'm Melanie Davis. I'm a second-year intern under Mark at the University Center on Developmental Disability, and I'm also a person with a disability who lives in Omaha.
Yeah, you might think like, what a tough, you know, teacher that I'm making my students come to these meetings. It's like, I don't think I could keep Melanie away from this meeting if I wanted to. Melanie does an outstanding job. And as I commented, as I go through my little list of check-offs here, we have not had official minutes for MCCD for quite some time, even though we've made every effort to continue our work on behalf of individuals with disabilities in the city of Omaha. So Jen has, someday we're going to just do this mass approval of all of Jennifer's notes, and that'll be an interesting day, I just feel. So at this point, I want to introduce my friend and our presenter, Jennifer Smith-Miller. Jennifer is the outreach coordinator, one of the outreach coordinators. I think there's a few of them. Yes, there are. I got that right. First time today. For individuals receiving special education services. She specializes with school age special education for PTI Nebraska, which used to stand, I think, for Parent Training and Information Center, but I don't think they, is it still an acronym, Jen?
Oh, yeah,
okay,
that's it.
Well then that's what it stands for. The Parent Training and Information Center for Nebraska. I'll let Jen speak to more about that, but I've had a long involvement with PTI. They certainly helped my son and family, and there's a PTI, at least one PTI in every state, and we have a very active program here in Omaha and in Nebraska. So with no further ado, Ms. Miller.
Thank you. This is such a cool building. This is my first time in here. Mark's probably used to me being like very energetic and live. I feel like I need to tone it down a little. Do I?
That would be
No?
first.
No? Okay, they're shaking their heads no. So I
You
can
just
be a little, Okay, is that okay? I got to make sure everybody stays awake.
It's all good, Jen. It's all good.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk with you and share what we do. So let me make sure I can share my screen. Am I doing it? Am I doing it? Okay. All right, we're there. This is exciting. Okay, so yes, I am Jen, and I'm the Assistant Director at PTI and a School-Aged Information Specialist. So I have some wonderful coworkers, and we all focus on different areas. I have a coworker who focuses on the birth to 5 kiddos, so the young ones, and then myself and another coworker, we focus on kind of that 3 to kind of right up to high school, so lots of elementary and middle school, because then we hand things off to our wonderful coworker Sandy, who does transitions, so high school stuff, college stuff, and then we also have a coworker who addresses health issues, lots of different health and medical issues, and then so we kind of cover the lifespan there. All right. So what is PTI? We are a statewide resource for families that have kiddos with disabilities or special health care needs. And our goal, our mission, is to help parents have the capacity to improve the education and healthcare outcomes for their children. Ooh, this is fancy. Okay, I'm like, where are my words? Bear with me. I got a little fancy. No. Okay, so we are a nonprofit, and we are funded by both the federal and state departments of education, depending on our grant and our position. So there is at least one parent center in each state, and Nebraska's is located in Omaha, and we do serve the whole state. So I usually say we do a lot of traveling, and it's been great when I get out to Scottsbluff and I'm like, I'm in the mountains. And they're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And I'm like, they're mountains to me. But because of the pandemic, we haven't done a lot of traveling, so lots of Zoom and online stuff. But we do still serve the whole state. And so we provide trainings, information, and support to parents who have kiddos with disabilities or special health care needs. All of our conversations are kept confidential. It's really important for parents to know that. And then, with that, if parents do want us to share information with the school or with healthcare providers or behavior specialists or related service professionals, whoever they're working with, so we can all get on the same page, so we can all have the same information, so we're all talking the same language, we definitely can with the parents' permission, and we have them sign a form. And so we do serve children and young adults. Our grant says birth to 26. But I got to tell you, we're not going to turn you away if you're 28 and you call and have some questions. A coworker and I helped a 42-year-old get back in college and get some accommodations through a 504 plan. And so it does say birth to 26, but we're not going to turn you away. See, I whispered that. Mark's like, oh boy. All right.
You don't have to worry about me, Jen. You're rolling. You're rolling.
Yeah. So parents need information, absolutely, all kinds of information. Parents are responsible for their children. They're their first teachers. They have their child's best interest at heart. We always tell parents, you know your child best. You know your child better than anyone. And you have the right to make decisions. But lots of times parents need someone to talk to about their child and their needs and their education. And so this guy on my screen is my reason why I need information. And I needed information when he was little, and I still need information. This is my son. He is 18 and a half. Whoa, I can't believe it. I know, right? Don't I look like I'm 20? Just he is 18 and a half. And he is currently in the 18 to 21 program at his high school. And he has multiple disabilities. He has a rare genetic disorder that has led to severe speech delay. He doesn't speak. He has 0 words, but he communicates awesome. Like oh my gosh, I don't know how he gets his needs met. It's amazing. Those eyes. He uses his hands like, come on, I'm going to pull you. You're getting me some Jell-O. Yes, I am. And he has a severe intellectual disability, and then he also has epilepsy and autism. So we got a lot going on. So guess what I needed? I needed information, and a lot of it. There's a lot of pieces. And so I was really excited to find PTI because they are a place that likes to give information. So parents also need support, lots of support. I often talk to parents about, the decisions in the education plan. So the decisions about the educational supports and services, they are based on data and documentation, right? We're always like, where's the data? Ask for the data. So we want parents to feel comfortable with asking questions, reviewing information, and sharing ideas with the school. And that can be tough because as many parents tell me, I'm not an expert at school. And I'm like, I completely understand that. I'm not either. But you know who is? Your school team, the educators. And so I like to say getting together with the school, it's a meeting of the minds. It's the expert on the kiddo at home and the experts, the kiddo at school. And so we really do try to help parents with asking questions and knowing what to look at in the information. And we really want parents to share their ideas too. A thing that parents often say to me, I've been at PTI for a little over 10 years, is they'll say, I don't know what I don't know. And I'm not sure which parent said that to me, but I share that because that is so true. Like parents just don't know what they don't know. They are not sure what to ask for, what questions to ask, who to ask, what ideas should I share? Is that going to sound silly? And I'm always like, no, no question is silly. No idea is silly. If you would know some of the ideas I've shared with my son's team, and can we tweak this and see if this will work for him there? You got to do it. And then a lot of times parents tell me they feel alone, and and I have felt alone too. So I'm right there with them. But you're not. And I often say, even though our children might have completely different disabilities, our care, our concern, our tears, our successes, all the emotions that we feel are all coming from the same place. And so it's important to understand that. And then I always say, okay, you're not alone. Just call me. Just give me a call and we'll chat. So staff members, the staff at PTI, we call ourselves parent professionals because everybody at PTI has a child with a disability or a grandchild. Our transition specialist has a grandchild with a disability. And so when you do call and talk to us, I like to say, like, we've been there, we're right there with you. Like I said, could be completely different disability. Our education plans could be completely different, and that is okay. Like, we're in it with you. And so we're available to talk to parents and professionals by phone, email, and then I had to add in there, right, online tools like Zoom or WebEx or all the different ones that we've done. And also in person, hopefully sometime soon, in person about special education, disability-specific information, and different health care concerns. And then we also connect with parents and professionals at lots of different trainings that we conduct across the state and also online. And then we go to different conferences and events and have information tables and try to connect with parents there too. Now, PTI is the home of Nebraska's Family to Family Health Information Center, and there's a little information about the funding of that from the Department of Health and Human Services and a little bit more. So the goal of the Family to Family Health Center is we want to increase parents' knowledge and understanding of, I just put a few things, how a child's health and medical condition or their disability might affect their education. Lots of transition information from high school to adulthood, and that concludes, education and employment, adult health providers, and health insurance coverage. We really want parents to know about different medical and financial resources that are going to be necessary to achieve the health outcomes they want for their young adults. And then we want them to know about different programs like SSI and Medicaid, as well as different adult service and guardianship options. And just thinking about this presentation, and as you probably all know, there's just a lot of pieces. There is a lot of pieces to special education, and there's a lot of pieces then when we get to the transition part, and parents are like, whoa, like it's not just education now. I have to think of life after high school, and that's a lot of things. That's work and volunteering, and that's housing and independent living skills and vocational skills. And it is trying to understand all the different programs like SSI and Medicaid and the waivers, and it can be overwhelming. And so what we hope to do at PTI is to help with that, to say, okay, let's talk through some things. We'll give you some information. I often call us information pushers. So let's get some information and then let's discuss it and see where we are. So why parent centers? Well, to help families get information about services for their children with disabilities, to provide one-on-one support to parents. And so that is support to the parents, to the family, and I want to make sure we do not provide direct services to the actual student or the young adult. And we sometimes get asked like, oh, do you do the evaluation, or can you work with my child on their, you had a good idea about a social skill activity. Could you do that with them? I would love to, but that is not what we do at PTI. So we're providing the support to the parents, and that does include talking through different ideas, suggestions, strategies, working with the school team to trying to come up with that, appropriate plan for your child. To help families make informed decisions that will make a positive difference in the lives of their kiddos with disabilities, to connect families and their children to community resources. So we don't give out like a recommendation in that if a parent calls me and says, oh, I'm in need of outside the school, a speech pathologist for some therapy, we have a list. So I don't say like, oh, call Jane Doe. So we don't, give out a recommendation, but we do have resource lists. So if parents want information on, therapists or speech paths or tutors, because again, there's a lot of pieces, lots of pieces. And so if we can help with that, we're going to share the information that we have. And they'll also ask about camps, sporting activities, what's going on. Are there opportunities for like choir, theater, all sorts of stuff. So we try to gather that information too. And then why parent centers? Well, because every year many mothers become mothers of children with disabilities. So we're going to need to support mothers. So you can contact or visit the office if you would like information about your child's disability or special health care need. And again, I always tell parents, and my coworkers laugh at me, I always say, it doesn't matter like if your child has Ooga Booga syndrome, and that is not a real syndrome. I've looked that up to make sure. But I'm like, and you don't have to be an expert at it, and I don't either. Let's look it up. Let's see what we find. And then let's talk about where your child's needs are. It goes back to your child's needs. What academic needs does your child have from, whatever disability or syndrome or special health care need that they have, and then what functional needs do they have? And when I say functional, that is such a big umbrella of needs. Again, lots of those pieces. It's communication, it's behavior, it's organizational skills, it's self-help, it's independent living skills, it can be related service, vocational. So when I say like, hey, so let's talk about needs, sometimes parents are like, whoa, like that's more needs than I was even originally thinking about. And so we'll just kind of work through it. So we can talk about your child's disability and special healthcare need. You can contact us if you have a question or concern about your kiddo's special education program. You can also call us if you have questions about how to help your child through other means. So there is a student assistance team. We refer to that as SAT, S-A-T, and that's regular education help or regular education interventions. And some parents don't know that that exists, but every school has to have one. They have to have a SAT process. Or we can talk about how to help your child through what's called a 504 accommodation plan, which is specialized help through a completely different federal law. So it's not special education like an IEP, but it's based on the 504 law. It's an accommodation plan. And again, some parents may be not familiar with that. And so there are, what I usually say, 3 ways to help your students. We have a training on that too. But yeah, we can talk about that SAT, the regular education help. We can talk about 504s. And then, of course, we can talk about IEPs and special education. And then, of course, contact us if you want to schedule a training in your community. Would love to get back in the community sometime. Might be next year, but hey, it'll be okay. Or via the internet. We do lots of Zoom trainings. And we've gotten pretty good at that, as long as the Wi-Fi works. We do have a website. I have it there on the screen. And then if you just, look up PTI Nebraska, like we're the only one that will come up. And we're also on Facebook, but on our website, you will find lots of different stuff. So just information on special education. We have a lot of favorite documents that we love to give parents. Like if a parent says, hey, I want information about behavior plans, I already know, oh, I have 4 documents. I want you to have these, and then I want to talk to you about them. Or if a parent calls and says, my kiddo is just diagnosed with ADHD, I'm like, oh, hey, I have 5. I have 5 handouts that I want you to read through, and then we can see what questions you have, what talking points you might have come up with. Okay. I don't know. I got a message saying something about my microphone. Can you still hear me? I got a little too excited there. I'm sorry, microphone.
We can hear you online, but we can't see your face anymore.
Oh, I'm okay with that. You don't need to see.
But you're so engaging. I want to see it.
You do not need to see this. Okay, sorry about that. You can also find recreational opportunities and then also access to other. Are you going to make my face appear again? Yep. And then access to other sites that will provide relevant and helpful information. We're always, looking at what information can we get you that's from the state. Love that state information. They have a great website. And then, nationally, what are some of the great sites out there? And then, oh, yay, I love this slide. So we offer free trainings. Free! Yes, free. So all it costs is your time. And we know time is precious, but we love to have parents' time and professionals' time too. So our main target audience is parents, but we also conduct trainings for caregivers, students, educators, administrators, healthcare professionals, and other professionals who work with children and young adults who have disability or special healthcare needs. And so all you have to do is send us an email, and we can talk about the training. I have a bunch of the trainings listed in a slide or two, but it's not exhaustive. We actually have more than that. And then we can work with you on if there's something specific that you want to a specific group. Oh, and here's those trainings. So I just listed several of our early childhood trainings that my coworker does. So she gets in there with that individualized family service plan for the little guys, and then when they transition to special education on an IEP. And then there's school-age trainings. So there's that one I mentioned, how to help your struggling child. We can go over the 3 different ways. And then, special education overview, IEP kind of more in depth, communication's so important. So trying to build that parent-professional partnership is so huge. So we have one about that. And then behaviors, promoting positive mental health. We were actually asked to create that one for NAMI. I hope I'm saying that right. Okay. And I was so excited about that because I really wanted a training around mental health because it's so important to focus on social emotional and mental health challenges that students are having. And then parental rights, tips for successful meeting. We do have a specific ADHD and autism trainings too. So then we have lots of different transition trainings. This is just a few of them. But overall transition services and then student-led IEPs and trainings about getting a job and that journey to adulthood, which is a lot of different things with like medical and dating and just a lot of things that they're going to experience. And then we do a 2-day FEAT training, which is great. It's a family employment awareness training. And ooh, I got a head shake. Yes. It is chock full of so much information that a young adult needs. And I know we're like, oh, if you're in high school, come, but I say if your kiddo's in middle school, like, and now with transition starting in age 14 now, yeah, so we hope to get more people going to our FEAT training, but it's just such great resource information about just vocational skills and employment and just all the different options out there. Again, so many pieces. So we hope to kind of put it all there together for you in one training. And then there are the family-to-family health trainings, and this is just several of them. We often get asked about the individualized healthcare plan, which if a student has a medical need that needs attention in school, they can get on with that IHP. And again, a lot of parents are like, wait, what? I never heard of that. I've had parents get an IHP for epilepsy and diabetes and peanut allergy, you know, just lots of different needs. Introduction to Adult Services is the one I mentioned where we start talking about SSI and Medicaid and guardianship. And then we have other trainings too, our bullying, recognition intervention, and parent advocacy, self-esteem. So just lots of different topics that we can do. So yeah, I am right at the end. So parent support makes a huge difference, and that's why we at PTI do what we do, because we want parents to feel supported, and be valuable members of their school team, because their input is so important. In the process, and we want them to feel a part of the team and be able to share ideas and brainstorm and collaborate. And so yeah, thank you for listening. So appreciate your time. And there's my good friend's daughter Grace, and there is my son again, and he graduated. Yay! I know, it was so exciting. Well, unsigned diploma because he went into the 18 to 21. So there, if anybody didn't know that, I just taught you something. So we got like a fake diploma. Or attendance, like he attended. Yes, he did. And so we'll get that at the end of his 1821 program. But man, did he rock that hat. Yeah, he did. It was awesome. And that is how to contact us. We have a main office line and a toll-free number. And then our general email address does go to our administrative coordinator, Robert. He likes to call himself the receptionist. And we tell him he's an administrative coordinator, but he will not change. So it is just reception@ptinebraska.org. And then there is our physical address and our fax, and then of course our website. And if you want individual staff members, I put in there that you just go to the About Us and you'll see the staff link, and then you will find us. And that's it. Yay! Look at that, I just cheered for myself. Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
So, you want to take a breath, or are you ready for questions?
Oh, sorry.
Just go.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Questions for Jennifer?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank PTI for all their services, because I think, like you said, parents don't know what they don't know. And it's really hard going into an IEP, and there's a whole room of people and professionals, and and so they feel sometimes intimidated, if they aren't sure. We've run into that sometimes through the years about wanting their child to have Braille and that. And so one of the things that we all feel like we are working in partnership with schools and families, and that that we encourage them to reach out to PTI, get these resources, let everyone work together to what's going to work out in the best interest of the child or the student. So I really appreciate the service. And if people haven't really tapped into the trainings, just the IEP process and all of that, it just helps empower parents. So thank you for your work.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. And you're right. Parents, the word overwhelmed comes up. And so then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to send you some information. I don't want to overwhelm you more, but let's read through this information and then talk about it. And you're not alone, and we're going to get through this.
So I'm going to preface my question with a little bit of explanation first. So you mentioned the student assistance team.
Yeah.
And talking about kind of the whole lifespan. So whether, the child has, let's say they have a cochlear implant and they're going into daycare, let's say they're 2, 3, 4 before school, and then they go to private school. Most of the special education teams work primarily with public schools. We know that. But can you just speak a little bit to kind of what that dynamic looks like, and if the daycare wanted some training on, for the staff on how to work with teaching sign language or integrate stuff, or then when they're in school, like how you then work with that, like that whole process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So first, there is a non-public document that I can give parents that can kind of help explain. But beyond that, we like to talk through, what could that look like? So if we're in a private school or even homeschool, right? I mean, so it's all kind of like non-public. We'll just generally say non-public. So if they are, then they call it like having a consultation meeting, so with the school. And so, it's bringing the public school and it's bringing all those main players in, right? So the private school, or if you're homeschooling, like the family, and then the people at the school who would be, so like the, sped teacher and a regular teacher, and if there's a related service provider. And it is getting together and having a meeting about, so what are the needs, and, how can we meet those needs? But I always need to say that it's going to look different in the private school than it looks in the public school. Maybe, if we're used to seeing like A to B, it might be like, okay, we're going to meet that need, but it's going to be like, woo, woo, ED, but we will get there. So, for instance, if the private school doesn't have, let's say, a speech path at the school, then the conversation is usually, or it could be, well, can we bus your student, over to the public school for that time? And then what does that look like? And then if we're going to do that, is there anything else we can provide at the public school, in terms of the time? I've had parents talk about participating in like a special class or a lunch bunch or specials over there, or or like music and PE. So again, I feel like there's a lot of pieces to that conversation, but it could look like a lot of different things. And so I like parents to know like all those different pieces, like what could you ask for? And then the support assistive technology, I'd want to make sure you talk about that, like with the implants and how would that work? There's AT specialists that can get involved. I'm big on getting the related service professionals involved too, because they are a wealth of knowledge and have wonderful ideas. So just getting that speech path to say, from a communication standpoint, what do you think for this little guy with hearing it? Like, what do you think? Or any visual aids we should do? Hey, OT, sensory issues. Like, I just want an opinion about, do we think we have anything there? Do we need anything? What are some activities? Even the PT, what do you think about access to environment? I'm big on 8 heads is better than 1. So I would say getting the main players and then talking about what could supports and services look like, and is it going over to the public school, and so what will that look like, and the time and busing and transportation, and But if you ever want to talk about that, we can talk about that more.
Yeah, no, that's great.
I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, no, that's what I was kind of hoping you'd cover. So
Okay, great.
I have a question. I'm not sure how eloquent it'll be, so bear with me. But I work in the public schools. I facilitate elementary special education services. So we have worked together quite a bit. And I'm always so grateful when you're in meetings supporting parents, because we can try so hard to build, maintain, keep that relationship with parents, but it's also always going to be a bit of give and take and conversational. Parents need someone who feel like they're sitting on their side, you know, so I'm so grateful for what you do. My question is, you know, with COVID, there were waivers given to all sorts of places in education except special education, which is fantastic, except it's been super challenging. So I'm just wondering what that impacts, besides how you provide services, how has that impacted your support to parents through the IEP process? What does that look like for you guys now?
That's a great question. Oh,
really, I want to know, do you have the answers and will you give them to me?
yeah. Actually, I was going to ask you that. Like, could we talk later? There's a lot of issues. No.
There are. It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. So I put together a presentation for a group, and it was like special education during COVID. And I remember sitting down going, what am I going to write? What should I say? And then I'm like, I have my parent hat because I have a child in special education. My son's in a self-contained classroom, and I've told this to many people. So when school shut down, I became his teacher, his para, his speech path, his OT, and I will be honest with everyone, I am not a good teacher, para, speech path, OT. I'm mom. But what's great is I had a great team who sent me ideas and materials and even videos. Amazing idea, take videos. So to your question, like trying to write that presentation, I watched other presentations from like the U.S. Department of Ed professionals and other states just to try to understand where everybody was coming from. And then, you know, we partner with our own Nebraska Department of Ed Special Education Department. And the thing that stuck with me is when multiple people said it, including our leaders in our state, that, you know, special education, IDEA, which is the federal law, and Rule 51, which is our state sped law, like those were not written with a pandemic in mind. She's like, no, not at all. So right there, that makes it very, very difficult. And I remember a teacher saying, we didn't write the law like thinking of like my son with multiple severe, profound needs, like what would that look like during a pandemic? He was like, I'm sorry, but we just didn't. But then I'm like, none of the states did. Like, none of the states have. So I feel like we've all been in new territory. It's been challenging. And a lot of unknowns, and it's been frustrating for a lot of reasons, not just education-wise. I mean, think of what everyone's dealing with, right? So education is just one piece, and then there's jobs and your mental health, and I mean your family and your social life. So parents have been dealing with a lot of challenges on top of education, and you know, when they call us, trying to figure out, like, where can we get information, you know, trying to, like, this is where we can get information. And then, as you know, every school kind of has their own plan, right? And yeah, she's like, yeah. So when we get asked questions like, so what are schools supposed to be doing? That's a difficult one, because schools, you know, have like their different remote learning plans and their different Zoom protocols, and just different is material like paper and pen, or is it on Chromebooks, or is it on an iPad? So schools have so many different ways to deliver education. So we don't have just like one or two answers for parents. So that was challenging, trying to figure out like, oh my goodness, okay, so here's the plan. And there's a lot of plans. I guess it goes back to the needs. We were like, how can we meet the needs and I know the word best is not in the law, and I try not to say best, but I'll say best. How do we meet the needs in the best way we can during this very challenging time when it's also challenging for teachers too? I have a lot of teacher friends and administrator friends who are in tears because they couldn't serve all their students the way they wanted to serve. But we as parents, like, we're not seeing the teacher tears.
Well, and I think you raise a good point, because as long as we stay student-centered and that being our compass to guide our steps forward, I think we're going to make the right decisions. So I think that we're kind of all doing and saying the same things and in this kind of trying time. So thank you. I appreciate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I always say, if you say needs like 17 or 27 times in your conversation, you're going to, that's good. Like, this is good. This is going to be good, because you have to keep it on the needs. And I like to share 3, I don't know if they're magic questions or 3 important questions. And I always give props to a teacher I forgot her name. Isn't this terrible? But I'm going to give her props. She's from Aurora, Nebraska. And it was after a training. And she said, if parents don't know what questions to ask, for whatever reason, I always want to make sure that we ask questions, because I had a slide about asking open-ended questions, and it's good. Stay away from yes or no. Ask questions where you can get a conversation and collaboration and problem solving, and not just a yes or no. And this teacher said, "You're totally right." And she's like, if parents aren't asking questions, we're prepared to kind of help them ask questions. And I was like, well, that's amazing. And she said, well, I think if you kind of go along the lines of these 3 questions, you'll get it done. And she said, so take the need, so let's take a reading need, and just ask, okay, what are we currently doing to address this reading need? And then give examples and explain, because I don't know about you, but you could tell me you're chunking, and I'm like, I don't even know. That could be a dance move. That could be a type of ice cream I'm supposed to go buy. So, like, give me an example of what chunking is. So she said, so the parent will know. Then ask, how effective is it? And that's where you can provide data and documentation, and observation, and like, how is it going? And then the third question, based on that, what else could we be providing? What other accommodations or strategies could we do? And that's where it's great for, like, hey, educators, what ideas do you have? And then, hey, parent, this is where you slip in like your idea, and it's not silly, just say it. And I love those 3 questions. And I feel like just through this pandemic, and yes, it's difficult and it can be frustrating, and I just truly believe we're all trying to do the best we can. So if we keep it on the needs and maybe answer those 3 questions about the kiddos' needs, and just try to make sure, like, we're addressing this and this is how it's going, and maybe we don't need to add something, or maybe we could add something, then I feel like we're in the right direction. I got to remember that teacher's name.
So, I had a question, Jen.
I was going to say, I've taken too much time. I should be pulled off with a cane.
The hook will be coming soon.
Yeah.
So I was reading, and I saw this thing, and it talked about an idea, and then this term kept coming up, FAPE, and so I was confused. So I thought I'd go to the expert.
IDEA and FAPE. And I probably said those and didn't say what they were, right?
No, I don't know if it came out. So.
Oh, okay. So IDEA is the federal law for special education. It stands for Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. So if you want to talk Nebraska's special education regulations, that's Rule 51. And I might have said that and not explained that. And that's school age. So just so you know, there is a Nebraska regulations for special education for the little guys, and that's Rule 52. So let's just confuse everybody more.
You talked about there's a federal law, and then we have regulations based on the federal law.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. And so, yeah, when parents call and say, like, what does the law say? Then we'll look up Rule 51, because Rule 51 looks a lot like, our Nebraska regulations look a lot like the federal law, IDEA. And a lot of times they're the same, or I like to say a lot of times they're better. In that, an example is, federal law mentions, let's say, 60 days to completing an evaluation, 60 school days, and like Nebraska Rule 51 is like, no, 45, 45 school days to complete an evaluation for school age. And so they'll look similar, but there's a few changes in there. And if parents ever have questions about the law, we are not legal advocates or lawyers, but I've had to read that thing several times. So, and I'm sure teachers, yes, you have to. And so we can kind of find things and tell you like, oh, this is how it's addressed in the regulations. This is what it says. But I'll be honest, in a lot of places, it's a lot of kind of vague, broad ideas because the IEP, right? The I in IEP is individualized. So it's like, yes, you can use positive behavior interventions and strategies and you figure out what those all are. It's wide open. So thank you for that question. Oh, and FAPE.
Yeah, that's something about something
FAPE,
what
FAPE, that's a
parents
great
can
question.
expect.
That's a great question. So FAPE stands for Free Appropriate Public Education. And kids are guaranteed FAPE in special education. And I always like to emphasize that word appropriate. And I kind of hinted on that earlier. I get parents who say, like, I want the best, right? I want the best education for, and I get that. I want the best for my son too. I usually say, like, I'll fight ya. Like, let's go. Like, I want the best for him too. But I had a friend years ago, a teacher friend years ago say, Jen, as I'm like crying, it's very emotional, people. It's very emotional. So I'm crying and trying to figure it out and didn't say a word in the meeting. And she was like, so your son's going to get FAPE. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And she's like, focus on appropriate. And I said, okay. She goes, you keep saying best. And like, I feel it in my heart, but you need to say appropriate. And she told me, if you work with the team, collaborate, problem solve, give and take, it's not going to be perfect. Nothing's perfect. But really, share ideas and work together. She goes, to get your son's needs addressed and met appropriately, which appropriately, again, the definition of that, I always say making positive progress. We're making positive progress. We're seeing positive change, right? And that can look different for every child. So she said, if you're seeing that, then that can be your best. I mean, that you can feel good that you are doing your best. And so FAPE is so important because FAPE is like your child's needs need to be met. And FAPE says so. And will it always be the best? Well, best isn't in the law, but man, we're going to work hard to make it so appropriate that you feel that it's the best. Was that an okay answer to that?
Well,
Do you have any other questions?
No, that was quite informative. Thank you, Jen. Others, questions for Jennifer?
I hope I didn't put anybody to sleep. I a lot of times
No,
bring
everybody's
candy
wide
and I
awake.
throw candy at people, but I didn't think that was appropriate today.
It would have been okay.
I was just wondering if it's possible for you to share your PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then maybe before we finish that you review your contact information. Just
Yeah.
for the audience today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you want to send it to me, Jennifer, I can get it to the group.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I can send him it.
Because Jen for some reason has my email address. I don't know how that happened.
And your cell, and I know where you live. No.
Yeah, all true.
Here, I will, let's see. I'm going to put up the contact information again, maybe. Or maybe not. We really don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Oh. Come on, baby. There we go.
Persistence pays off.
This is pretty good for me because I have trouble turning my TV on sometimes because we have 4 remotes because why not?
Mm-hmm.
There should be 4
One's
remotes.
good, 4's better.
Yeah, 4 is better. I just put the TV on. But yeah, there is the contact information. And please let me know if you ever want to chat about your own child or students you're working with or, anyone. You want to talk about the weather? We're here.
Well, and if you Google PTI Nebraska or PTI-NE, all of that pops up.
Yeah.
So It's usually what I have to do. It's like I don't call often enough to actually memorize it, so I just have to, and then I get to talk to Robert, and we have a pleasant conversation. And
It's very sad to know that I'm not on your speed dial, but I'll get over it.
I don't have a speed dial.
I dated myself.
I have an address book, and you are in it. So there.
Well, thank you so much. You all are great, and thank you what you do here. It's very important committee, and I'm just so grateful that you all let me be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jen.
Do you want me to stop sharing?
We do have a couple things we have to do, so yeah.
I'll
we're
stop
good.
sharing that.
And this is not gonna be easy, but I'm gonna try. I had a little bit of information that was shared with me about an emergency management training that's coming up through Niagara University that I was asked to share kind of midstream. You can get accommodations through that. I'm going to give you a number, 716-286-8139, or you can email, this is hard to see, FRD, D as in dog, FRDAT at niagara.edu. But on the 13th and 14th of September, as well as the afternoon of the 14th of September, Niagara University is going to be doing an emergency management, access and functional needs, disability awareness training in Omaha. The topics to be discussed are going to include disability awareness to specific emergency management, access and functional needs defined to include universal design, understanding how the whole community concept is imperative to proper response to individuals with disabilities and how to involve them in emergency management, the ADA relative to emergency management and response, community resources and other materials that assist emergency management, disaster preparedness and planning, inclusive planning and active participation, and they're going to talk about a New York City lawsuit and its ramifications nationwide. There's no fee for the course. Lunch is on your own. We will post this on our YouTube site, but it's at Faith Christian Church at 2201 South 132nd, and there is a registration, FRD as in dog, FRDAT.niagara.edu. If you're not sure which one of those to attend, because there's two. There's option one on the 13th and 14th, and option two is a half day on the 14th. You can contact FRDAT at niagara.edu. Again, we'll make sure this flyer is up on our website and Facebook page, but I invite you to take a look. Emergency management is a very hot topic within the disability space. Because we're in Nebraska and we have bad weather like just about everybody else in the country, we have to be ready and to keep everyone safe. And that means having preparations in place for individuals with disabilities as well as the rest of our citizens. I'm just going to throw it over. We have throw it open. We have like just a minute. Does anybody have any announcements they want to make before we finish up? I didn't have any announcements beyond that one. Okay, I want to thank our speaker, Jennifer Smith Miller, no relation. And remind you that I want to thank Jamie for her support. We really like Jamie. She's cool. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 27th. We're going to have a little chat about who we're going to be having present, because we are a little off schedule, but we'll get that figured out and get that information available. So thanks to all, and have a great rest of your day.
The record